You're listening to ArTEEtude, a podcast with artists created and produced by Detlef Schlich, a visual artist and ritual designer, living and loving in West Cork, and best known for his essay about the cause and effect of shamanism, art and digital culture. Working in the field of performance, photography, painting, sound, installations, and film, he will dive and discover with us and a weekly creative guest into the unknown and exciting deep ocean of the creative mind.
This is Detlef Schlich, and today we dive into the unexpected and exciting deep ocean of the creative mind with David Bickley. David is a multimedia musician, artist, filmmaker. We had in the first two parts a nice chat about his coming out in England and his work as well in Dublin. Hi, David. First of all,
hi.
We finished the second part with a chat about somehow the lockdown and how it changed the artists in general and the creative mind, and how we're gonna cope somehow as well with this changing, this wild change, this forced change actually, and what can we do in order to keep us healthy and well going and still creative. And it was quite interesting what David mentioned already in the second part, so I really appreciate that, because I mean I wrote my thesis about shamanism, art and digital culture, so the cause and effect about how can we re-spiritualize society. I mean in order to keep the sanity going and not just the believing in the government and what they're telling us. So yes, great to have you here for that.
Well, I think yeah, all kind of economically hard times, certainly we learn about physically hard times, lead to a more greater spiritual awareness. That happened in the 80s, didn't it? I mean, the whole kind of burgeoning spiritual movement of the late 80s came out of austerity of the early 80s, of the unemployment, really.
That's interesting when you say, yeah. So let's say the neoliberalism and the rise of Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, isn't it?
Well, I think it's created during those times of austerity, the seeds of it, probably not by the people who are going to make any money out of it when it's, you know, the economic times re-emerge and people re-emerge with this great sense of spirituality, and they start to invest in the products of those kind of art fields. So it's like everything else, like all the pioneers, you know, so the people that are now developing new things out of this, they'll just be spreading seeds for the people that are going to make a bloody fortune out of it in another 10 years time.
Yeah. I mean, I must say that is actually what happened to me in the 90s. I was in the 90s against computers due to social political reasons, you know. And then I was reading the Rolling Stone and I realized, come on, all that hippies from California, they use all computers, you know. And if you're not gonna doing that, if you're not jumping on this train, you become a computer dyslexic in the 21st century, you know. So
that's what happened there. It was to do with Silicon Valley, and that the
exactly
before the kind of the 60s revolution of the hippies, yeah, the people that were working in technology were very straight people, you know. Well, the people that were very kind of mathematical and intelligent at school, they went into kind of, you know, into banking, finance, technology, computer, armaments, stuff like that. and it was the hippies were now hippies, and they're also nerds, and they were able to build these computers.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that early stuff in Silicon Valley, they were all spaced out hippies making, the Macs, really, probably just the Macs, really, and the Ataris. Anyway.
What? Yeah, no, sure. Yeah. And I mean, I must say, I'm quite happy that I eventually made it. Because for me, as a left-hander and
also a left-hander, Kitog.
Yeah,
Same here.
yeah. You see, it helped me a lot to give me structure. I mean, because I used to write scripts for the German television in 1998 up to 2003, or some 5 years, and it helped me as well to get my handwritten stuff that I can read it. So it helped me a lot to push my creativity somehow as well forward.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, computer-wise, I never really had a problem with them. It's just that they didn't work very well. So when I remember my mum was a teacher, and she brought home a BBC microcomputer and an Acorn, as they were called, and it was this little computer, and I thought, wow, computer's brilliant. And so here's the book, how to use it, how to program.
How old have you been?
How to program a green square. This is back in 1978. Yeah.
So it was an Amiga, probably.
No, it was a BBC Micro, made by the BBC in collaboration with, made by the British Broadcasting Corporation in collaboration with Acorn, who were a computer manufacturer. And I tried to program. It was all coding. I was going, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
So it was only when when I was in London, had a studio of my mate Simon, that we bought an Atari ST24, which was it was I can't remember, 1040. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, this Atari computer. But the thing about the Atari computer, which is the only computer that ever had this, it came with MIDI built in. The MIDI basically meant you could connect it to synthesizer straight away.
Yeah.
No interface. Plug it in. And off we go. And bought a program called Steinberg Pro 24, which was the original version of Cubase. And it was so simple. But and I realized much later, why was it so simple? Because it was in the operating system was called GEM, GEM, was invented by the people who went on to write the operating software for Mac. So there you go. So that's why it had this and it was Windows kind of icon based, and it was just drag and drop, as opposed to PCs at the time. And PCs didn't get Windows until 1990, 91. Before that, it was all MS-DOS. Hello, let's do some programming. So so that's why I got into computers, and we used it to control synthesizers. But my kind of relationship with computers is love-hate, And at some point in the past, a few years ago, I stopped using computers to make music, and I was even considering stopping using computers to make films, but that became far too expensive. But I bought a hard disk recorder, 24-track hard disk recorder, and everything was recorded on that, which meant instead of, the reason was that when you're making music on a computer, you spend all your time looking at the screen, and you're waiting for, you're actually just reading it. You're waiting for this next bit of the waveform to come up so you can do your bit. So you're not actually listening to it, So I've kind of changed my whole approach several times, and I have now during the lockdown. So I basically sold all my synthesizers and bought a load of really mental effects pedals so I could process organic sounds like guitars and whistles. And
sound good.
I bought no, I played clarinet, but I also bought myself a duduk, which is like an Armenian oboe.
Wow,
so I've been doing lots of stuff.
How does it sound? How does that sound?
It's going to sound terrible because the reed is not open, so the reed's all closed up.
Just give,
so it probably won't even work.
Give an idea.
Well, I don't know if it'll sound good at all. Then it's maybe entirely embarrassing. So no.
so it's not warm.
Well, it's just, you see the reed, it kind of closes up. It's a big fat reed. But these are traditionally made out of apricot wood. And so I ordered this off Amazon.
They're gonna do this,
Well,
isn't it?
They're very kind of,
Nice sound. Very warm. I love it.
But I put this, right? So I've got a pickup. Now, this pickup here is for my clarinet. So I play the clarinet, right? My clarinet has a little hole in it, where you put this pickup in.
Yeah.
And then I discovered, and this pickup was bought, and this clarinet was bought for me by the very great Fergus O'Farrell from Interference, who died there 3 years ago.
I know, yeah.
Oh no, it's his present. He said, "Dave, I'm going to buy you a clarinet," because my other clarinet got stolen, and he did. He bought it for me, so it's very, very precious to me, my clarinet. But I discovered that the hole on the back of the thumb hole on the back of the duduk is exactly the same size as the hole on the clarinet, so I can plug this directly in, which means I don't have to have a microphone. Which means now you should, if you think that sounds good, right? You should hear it through these effects here, and I could very quickly do that, I think, and record it onto this system here. No, I can't actually. Forget that.
No, probably not.
Too complicated. Anyway, Anyway, so I've got loads of effects. I play that through, and it sounds very mystical and far away.
So you have fun with that.
So yeah, I kind of moved into kind of more acoustic mode. But then I did say I do need a synthesizer. So I bought this Mad Yoke here, which I'll show you in 2 seconds. I just have to restart it, kind of pick it up without its cables attached.
Yeah.
So I went online, and I'm just looking for. I wanted something to be inspirational as a synthesizer, because I've been playing synthesizers since 1975. You know what I mean? So obviously I know how to play, and every time I go to a synth, I know exactly what to do to make this sound. So I wanted something to be unpredictable. So I ended up buying this, and it's called an organelle, and it's made by a company called Guitari and Critter in the States. And now the first thing about it, it's got wooden buttons, like a button accordion instead of keys.
Very fancy,
Which is really nice, because when you play it, it's not like playing a keyboard, it's like playing another instrument. But it also, basically it has a little Raspberry Pi computer inside it, and you can just download all these patches for it, and it's a sampler, it's a synthesizer, and it's an effects unit all in one, and it's bonkers, you know. It really is.
Cool.
So I got that to create inspirational music. So
I
think
you must send me the link of
the organelle. So, crazy machine.
It's really, and that's the thing nowadays. What they create, it is so somehow challenging. It's democratized as well. Making music again, isn't it?
my one of the synthesizers I sold was a modular synthesizer, and I bought that about 18 years ago. And when I bought that, there were only 3 modular synthesizers you could buy. One was to buy a vintage Moog and spend hundreds of thousands of pounds. One was Doofer, which were kind of a bit cheap and nasty at the time, well, just the way they looked. And the other one was Analog Systems from Cornwall.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
And which were kind of expensive, and I'd just done a TV job, and I was able to afford it. But when I bought that was it. I was, wow, I had this modular synth. But now you can get more modules for modular synths than you ever could before. And they're all designed to sound mad and do mad, unpredictable, random things. And this whole sorry, I was going to say this whole interest in generative music is what people have got into. Again, taking back to Eno, because he pioneered a lot of this generative stuff, not just in music but in art too. This idea of randomness, you know. I mean, no, it wasn't really him. I'd say he may have made it popular, but it was John Cage who kind of, and people like that who back in the 50s who started, you know. So basically, it's like if you record, say you get three drones, so you create 3 drones on a synthesizer, and you put them on 3 separate cassette tapes with 3 separate cassette tape machines.
Yeah.
And then you let them all play. You press one, leave a couple of minutes, press the other one, press the other one.
Yeah.
They'll all be playing out of sync with each other, you see. But they're all in tune with each other, so they're in the same happy zone. But what they do is they'll create their own music, and it's never the same. And so Eno actually took this. Go on, what do you want to say? I'm talking too much. Go on.
No, it's great. But that reminds me from the electric cool acid test was what I want to say.
Oh, Ken Kesey.
Yeah, the loop in general, isn't it? I mean, that's so amazing, and I think Brian Eno was inspired by that too.
Well, it's not just a loop, because you know the loop will repeat itself accurately. It's the fact that things are okay, there's a randomness introduced. But you know, I remember listening to, when I was at school and I was into Tangerine Dream, my design teacher said, "Oh, you might be interested in this," and it was an album produced by a computer, you know. And I said, "Oh, yeah, very interested." I listened to it, and he was like, "Beep boop, oh, dee doo doo," and I was going, "This is horrible." But now it probably still is horrible, that album. But it's just that the algorithms that create this stuff are now much more complex.
When was that?
Geez, 70s they produced that kind of stuff.
So I was wondering,
music.
that was then the artificial intelligence in the 70s somehow.
No. There's always been random noise generators. Because, I mean, this stuff is in nature, you know. I mean, that is the point, really. You're trying to, you see, nature has a pattern. We know that because it has the Mandelbrot set. You know, the fractals are burnt right through nature. But it also has a randomness about nature, you know. So it's this combination of the two. There's an underlying pattern which is familiar, but the way the arrangement is random. So that's, you know, making music. Yeah, it's grand as long as it's in tune with itself, and as long as it's kind of in the same tempo. It makes sense when it's random.
Unpredictable moments. Yes. No, that's very interesting what you say, because it is. This conversation comes very often up when I have a chat with artists, you know. So this predictable, unpredictable moments, you know. So nature has this geometrical patterns, but then they are somehow unpredictable as well again, because there's as well a glitch, like even our lockdown thing now, you know, which is a natural catastrophe somehow, and it's probably we will come, maybe we will discover in 100 years that it was as well just a geometrical pattern, you know. So I don't know. I mean, that's just philosophizing about it.
But yeah, so I'm very interested in the whole idea of generative stuff, and that machine, the Organelle, has a number of generative functions on it. So I've used it also in making films, and I particularly use it in music. So if I'm recording a piece of music, I would, you know, I'd say, right, I've got this sound, this is great, let's try it on this track, and I'd play away, you know, and I would only do one take. I would never think, oh right, there were bits of that which were good. I would generally, 90% of the time, stick with the one take. Just go through and edit it. So take out all the stuff that sounds bad, and just leave in the good stuff. And that was a tip that was given to me by Harold Budd, who's the piano player that did all those albums with Eno. And he said to me when we met in Lanzarote, he said, it's very easy to make good music. You just play a load of notes and then take out all the bad ones. so I mean, if you just keep playing and experimenting, jamming basically, and then take out all the duff notes, you're left with all the good notes, and it all sounds great. But a lot of that, you see, comes from my other discipline of making films and editing, you know, because I'm so used to editing. And you know, being very kind of listening, does that work or doesn't that work? You see, the thing about being an editor, you've got to be detached from it but attached to it. So you've got to be very into the vibe of what you're saying in terms of the content and the narrative and the feel of it, but you've also got to be detached enough so you don't get hung up on, oh, I'd spent ages editing that bit, so I'm going to leave it in, even though it's rubbish.
Don't tell me.
No, I used to be like that. So I would, I would be working with producers and they would say, can you take, that bit doesn't work, can you take it out? And no, that bit's brilliant. I love that bit. And I would stand by it. But now I would consider and go, yeah, it's rubbish, take it out. And, when you reach that point, you have to be able to very quickly decide what's good and what's bad. And I think that works in all art forms, and also knowing you're not overcooking it too. Knowing when it's finished. When is it finished is the most important thing.
Sometimes.
You sound like somebody who overcooks something there.
That can happen too. I mean, I know that. I did my art degree, a video installation, and it was quite. It was what I did is I used Bohemian Rhapsody as a methodology to discover transhumanism. So what I did is I used the whole song and I really divided it in pieces, analyzed it, and used
that's a remediation project, isn't it? Really, Ben?
No, you told about that. So you're working on your PhD or you already finished it?
No, what happened was somebody mentioned there was this brilliant PhD course to digital arts and humanities. Yeah. So I thought, I'd love to do that. So I got accepted. And I went along and a bit, freaked out because it was many years since I was at college. And I was teaching. I teach at colleges. So you're on the other end. So it's a bit weird. And it was expensive, obviously, to go to UCC. And I applied. They let me in while I was applying for the grants. But I didn't get the grants. And so I only did a year. And then I couldn't do it.
When was that?
4 years ago.
When was it?
But I decided that the year was enough anyway. But do you know what?
Yeah.
After about a month of it, I was my brain had just gone, and because the language and the way people would, and the people you were working with and meeting, and the ideas. Oh my God, it's fantastic. I'd love to have finished it. I just couldn't afford it. End of story.
I know, but it's things like this that it's just inspiring to work with people with the same mindset on a philosophical way. It's quite interesting and inspiring, isn't it?
The only reason I did it was because I realized that I've been working with lots of good people in terms of creativity, but the philosophy side of things. You see, when I used to go to Cornwall, was my other big area of kind of influence. I went to Cornwall a lot, and it's still my most favorite place in the entire universe. And right down the end, West Penwith, and where all the artists went. But I've been going there since the 80s. And I've forgotten what I was talking about now. We were talking about being influenced by stuff. Oh, yeah. The people I met down there were very philosophical. But they're very normal people. They were kind of they weren't intellectual people, but they were very philosophical. And I kind of missed that. I wasn't really meeting the people and discussing the same kind of philosophies. The odd person, Fergus O'Farrell was somebody who I used to talk a lot about stuff like that. And Colin Verncombe, very philosophical chap. But there wasn't a lot around, really, in my life anyway. So that's why I did that PhD, was simply to immerse myself
great
in that.
Great, David. I think we're already at the end of our 3
and
sessions.
We haven't even talked about any of my art.
And we weren't able to do that now. So we were somehow. We were somehow. It was great, and it was I hope as well quite inspiring for listeners. I mean, if they go to your page, or if you just tell me your website is.
It's davidianbickley.com. But I mean, if you just look there, it's all the kind of the nature-based stuff. You'll see all the kind of the art, the installations I do, and the film art that I make.
Yeah. So that's davidianbickley.com as well. David is on Instagram. That's David _
Bickley _ David _ Ian _ Bickley. I don't know why I didn't put
Bickley,
dots in. Never mind.
Yeah. I mean, you will find that in my description anyway. as well as I'm gonna make a visual YouTube clip out of these 3 parts. Is there anything else what you want to add, David?
No. Well, it's just I wanted to speak about the kind of the films that I make, which is really what I do. So I make installations which are very spiritual, very spooky, and a lot to do with nature and based on landscape. I've been making these for years and years now, and I'm still working. I'm working on one at the moment with Hina Khan, who's a Pakistani lady who lives in Kinsale. So we're working on one based on a salt marsh, and
that sounds very interesting.
Well, that's based on her drawings that are based on aerial footage we took of the salt marsh, and then I'm working with an animator to animate her drawings of these. It's to do with borders and liminality and homeland and places.
All right,
all of that threshold.
No, I mean, I had a look in that already, but I think this would jump out of the frame now for today. But I would like to have then another chat with you sometimes again. About that,
whenever you got the chance,
so
be deadly.
I think that's better as well for the listeners, because the attention span is quite restricted for
about 40 seconds.
What?
Well, no, that is the attention span. Is 40 seconds. It always hasn't changed. Well, it depends. It has a bit. It actually has changed, probably about half that now. But that was always what we were told when we were making any kind of clips, by the commercial people. I was told by the commissioners, 40 seconds. That's what most people would give something before they give up on it.
Yeah, I know.
Now it's more like 5 seconds, I'd say.
No, probably. I mean, kind of breath. I mean, the podcast they say 18 minutes. So I try as well to keep it normally, because it's quite exhausting.
It depends how interesting it is. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. No, so that's a great thing with podcasts like this. You can stretch it if you want, and it's just over the thumb, ish to have a little idea where I'm gonna go for editing one. So no, it's great. It was great, David. It was
great,
lovely
chat,
and and I hope so we might have you in the ArTEEtude podcast next year again. I mean, this year is almost full with talk guests. I have already 2 or 3 other people waiting for it. I must say, dear listeners, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. And if you have any questions, you can ask me as well. I can put it forwards as well to David if you want. And I would say, thanks a lot, and I hope to see you soon, David.
See you soon, man. That's fantastic.
Take care.
Take it easy.
Take
it easy.
Bye. Bye. This is a listener-supported show. I feel honored if you subscribe this show. You can follow me non-financial with the following click on one of my Instagram accounts, or subscribe the visual version of this podcast on YouTube via the link below. If you like what you hear, be sure to tune in this Sunday for the 3rd part of this ArTEEtude audio triptych. If you want to leave a donation for a coffee or a bus ticket, just follow the donation link via the ArTEEtude podcast account. Eventually, I would like to thank, through this medium, all my members and listeners of the I Love West Cork Artists Network from all over the world. Just to remember myself that without you, this here couldn't and wouldn't happen.
You have listened to ArTEEtude, West Cork's first art, fashion and design podcast. ArTEEtude, never so close again. That was too close.